Grant Furking, in case you didn't know, a former Tennessee walk-on receiver turned NIL guru, and now we find out that he was a consultant to Josh Heupel. Just how troubling is this? Caleb Calhoun, provide us some more context. He was at SEC Media Days last year, met him, spoke to him, just felt like it was all too good to be true. And you've got a guy who was supposedly a millionaire, like at the age of 19. He began a straw company at the age of 14, and he turns out to be the straw man when it comes to keeping his word. Several eviction notices, several lawsuits against him. And like I said, it turns out he was paid $30,000 to be a consultant to Josh Heupel. What more context would you like to provide, Caleb?
Yeah, Grant Furking. And the only thing I'll say in his defense is I feel like Grant Furking just got caught, but is no different from a lot of people who were successful in business, which is they tried to fake it till they made it. And Grant Furking just faked it and didn't make it. And so Grant Furking, he was a part-time consultant for Tennessee football, had been since July of 2023, while he also worked for On3, which we know is the new top sports media recruiting site out there, based in Nashville. Shannon Terry has come out and said that On3 had no knowledge of Grant's relationship with Tennessee, either directly or indirectly. He also had,
and if I can add, he was specifically told not to have a direct connection with any collective or any school, which he did with Tennessee.
Exactly. He had a direct connection. Yes, he was not supposed to have any connection with any direct collective or any school. And he did with Tennessee. Remember, On3 is a huge part of the NIL era for athletes. They do NIL valuations for athletes that you could read about. They actually help streamline athletes' chances to get NIL deals. They're almost their own collective in that way. And so Grant Furking, who left On3 on May the 27th, left amid, quote, allegations of criminal misconduct, according to a statement On3 provided. At Tennessee, his duties included advising Josh Heupel on off-field matters, consulting staff members on best practices, and representing the Vols program at public events. You're right, he was getting $7,500 every 6 months, $30,000 for the past 2 years. The final payment was on January 1st of this past year. UT spokesman Jason Baum says that Furking has not done any recent work on campus and that his contract will not be renewed. So I guess the simplest matter of this, and there are pictures of him with Danny White and Josh Heupel. He was a former Tennessee walk-on. Grant Furking.
There were pictures of him. I mean, there was video of him celebrating with the Vols after several games. I mean, he was easy to find on the sideline.
Right, exactly. So to simplify this, Grant Furking was working with Tennessee while working for On3, which is a violation of On3's rules for employment. And don't forget, he's now accused of running multiple financial scams. And On3 is a direct streamline for NIL, which has been a big thing related to Tennessee over the past couple of years.
All right. Today's tough question is right now, and it's brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Please hit that like and subscribe button. This could get serious.
Today's tough question. Boom. You heard that. Now take it. The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Represented by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com, Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer, Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
All right, Caleb, let's dive into this for a second. But let's begin with today's tough question. That is, should Tennessee be worried? Should Tennessee fans be worried about Josh Heupel and the Vols' involvement with Grant Furking? What say you, Caleb Calhoun?
So I have been, I read a lot into this. I think Tennessee's connections, there is some concern. I think the biggest concern is, I mean, how did Tennessee employ this guy when he was working for On3 and knowing that was a violation of his work with On3. Did they know or did they not know? There's a lot to criticize about the vetting process of Tennessee with that in mind. However, I don't think they should be worried. I don't think any more is going to come on this. I think that it is. I genuinely think it's just an oversight and lazy vetting by the administration. It's the same as when Dave Hart hired Donnie Tyndall and didn't realize that Donnie Tyndall was having an academic fraud investigation happening at Southern Miss right during that time.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I think there's a super reason for concern. In our super chat, you want to address Timothy's comment before I tell you why that you should be so concerned?
What we have learned today, kids, no moonlighting while working with On3. So, yeah.
What is it? What exactly what does he mean by that? What does Timothy mean by that?
Is it moonlighting? Just doing, having a secret
job? Yeah.
side hustle?
Yeah. Okay. So listen, Grant Furking was very involved with Josh Heupel. As we found out, he was paid $30,000 to be a consultant. He was often seen around Hendon Hooker. As a matter of fact, the two were attached at the hip, probably more because of Furking's liking than Hooker's. But it speaks to his integrity or lack thereof that Metro Straw is accusing him of trying to rip them off. That he's getting sued by multiple people. He's getting evicted by multiple people, and On3 is disassociating themselves from him. If I'm the University of Tennessee, yes, I'm concerned. Now, you have to remember this is a different backdrop. If this is 5 years ago, before NIL, huge monstrous concern, right? I mean, he's
huge, gigantic.
He's a bag man. Simple as that. He's just a bag man. He's handing guys money. That's clearly what he's doing. And he was facilitating payments to players. It's different now because of NIL. And you can be a little loosey-goosey with some of those payment rules because these guys aren't amateur athletes anymore. But my bigger concern, if I'm Josh Heupel and I've heard about all this, and let's be clear, I'm sure Josh Heupel knew about more of this weeks and months ago. But if I'm Josh Heupel, I'm worried about what I don't know. I'm worried about something else that's out there that Furking may have done. So today's tough question, it is on the YouTube page. Please vote. Is what, Caleb Calhoun?
Today's tough question is, should the Tennessee Vols be concerned about the Grant Furking situation with On3?
The answer is absolutely heck yes. And it's brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. banksandjones.com.
To the message board, we like your comments. Derek says, off season, shaking my head, plenty of time for people to dig up dirt on you. Listen, it's not dirt when it's Derek part of the legal system. That's public record. General Ursa says the only one that should be worried is Grant Furking. Guys, we'll see if you're right. You may well be, but this sounds like the same responses from a fan base in the early stages of so many other scandals that I've been around. And it always starts with no need to worry. It's that guy's fault and that guy's fault. And this Jeremy Pruitt guy, surely he wasn't handing money to guys in a McDonald's bag. No, it turned out to be a Chick-fil-A bag. But the bottom line is, in the early stages of this, it sounds like it could potentially be a big scandal. Does it not, Caleb? I mean, it may dissipate, but it sounds like it.
I mean, it sounds like it could be a potentially big scandal. And let's point this out. It could be a scandal from a legal perspective, because we're talking about this guy's getting in trouble with running financial scams. He was working with On3 and he was advising Tennessee. This has Tennessee NIL written all over it, doesn't it?
Yes.
And so, I mean, there's no NCAA violations really with NIL anymore, but were there some legal violations? Who knows? I think Josh Heupel and Danny White had this former walk. It was the typical take care of a former walk-on. They were like, it was a walk-on receiver. You want to take care of a walk-on. They hired him for some consulting advisory roles. He took some money, and I don't think they did any real research. That's not it. No, I'm not. You could say that's a concerning sign that Heupel wouldn't do research on people that he's hiring. And I might listen to you on that. But I'm just trying to make the point that I don't think this is going to be as bad as we think it is for Tennessee. But but if it is, if Tennessee knowingly did something illegal or was involved in anything Brent Furking did that was illegal, you don't have to worry about the NCAA coming down at all. You have to worry about the Justice Department getting involved or the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations getting involved. Okay. And then all of a sudden, are there legal things for Josh Heupel? Are there legal things for Danny White? Does Tennessee have to clean house? You don't know. I mean, I'm not saying I doubt Josh Heupel's going to prison, guys. But at the same time, there could be questions that go far beyond NCAA enforcement.
Well, the last thing you want, the NCAA doesn't have subpoena power. Okay, so Caleb's absolutely right. If the feds were to get involved, or the police or any sort of prosecution were to get involved, they have subpoena power. They can call you and say you have to tell the truth. They could theoretically call Josh Heupel and Danny White. And if that were the case, then it's an embarrassment, if nothing else, for the program, and a program that's just 5 years or so removed from the goofiest scandal that has ever happened at Tennessee under my watch, and that would be the Jeremy Pruitt Chick-fil-A thing. So, I mean, Caleb, at the very least, this is a bad look, and I don't understand. Listen, at the end of the day, guys, if you're a Tennessee booster, don't worry about this part of it. We're talking about a drop in the bucket. $30,000 is absolutely nothing. But still, why are you just throwing cash out there when you've got an athletic department worth $225 million? Do you really need outside help, Caleb?
No, I don't think you do at all. That's the crazy part, is you don't need outside help. And that's why I think this was just wanting. I don't think there was any real vetting. I think this was just wanting to take care of a walk-on. I really
sounds like now. I think it sounds like something else to me. And Derek tipped me off on this. Great post, Derek, on the message board. Brent Furk is working harder than Tennessee staff in recruiting, is what I gather. Really sounds like this staff can't recruit for nothing. It does sound like they were.
That's not a bad point by Derek.
It sounds like they were taking the easy way out, Caleb. You know, this guy will, I get emails all the time saying, we can call and set up sales appointments for you. Because the worst part about sales is the cold calling, right? You call somebody out of left field. You say, in this case, I say, who handles your marketing? And they say, it's Bob, and Bob's on vacation, and we're really not doing anything right now. And you have to, that's the worst part about sales. Okay. So here's what I imagine Brent Furking was like. It was like who's in charge of Bob's recruiting? Well, I'd like to speak to that person. You really don't want to get, it sounds like he was handling the cold calling, which, if that's the case, then I've got a question along Derek's point. Is this Tennessee staff not competent in the connections they have with high school coaches, or are they not putting in the effort to have several avenues? In other words, if Nico doesn't work out, you got other guys, or if Mike Matthews doesn't work out, you got 2 or 3 other top flight receivers that you can go to. You want options in recruiting. Trust me, I've covered it for a long time. So if they're depending on a guy to handle their cold calling, that's a major red flag to me over either a lack of competence or a lack of work ethic.
Yeah, I actually would agree with you on that. And but that's, again, I guess that comes, I'm coming to your side on the issue of concern. I guess my thought of concern was, should they worry that Josh Heupel or Danny White's going to face any trouble with this? And I don't think they're going to face any trouble. But if you want to talk concern about the issue that this shows a greater level of laziness by Heupel in recruiting, I can get with you on that. I mean, look, we called, and we have called, let's just call it what it is. We've basically discussed how Josh Heupel doesn't seem to like recruiting that much. I think you and I both agree with that, right? And
I mean, who does?
I think some people do. I think Philip Fulmer loved recruiting, didn't he?
Yeah, probably. I mean, there's a rare exceptions that really love it. I get the feeling though in this current situation of NIL where players have more leverage that basically nobody likes it. I don't think that Kirby Smart, who would probably be like the next Philip Fulmer because he relies on recruiting, right?
Right.
I get the feeling that he doesn't like it under this current situation. Saban didn't like it to the point he left. A couple of comments on the message board. Do you want to finish your thought real quick?
Well, yeah, I guess I guess where I'm leaning on this is Philip Fulmer, listen to me. Josh Heupel, this is evidence of him not liking to do. Josh Heupel doesn't want to do anything but scheme. He wants to draw up X's and O's. That's what he loves, right? He's in this because he likes doing that more than anything else. And yeah, I think he's a little lazy when it comes to other issues involved in football. You can get around that. I mean, you and I have talked about this all the time. I mean, there's some great coaches in the past that were like, by standards of the time, were lazy recruiters, honestly. And so I think Josh, Steve Spurrier didn't like recruiting at all. He also didn't like, for those who don't know, he told Emmitt Smith when Emmitt Smith wanted Steve Spurrier to sell him to come back for a senior year at Florida, Steve Spurrier just said, "Can you please let me know what you're going to do? Because I need to make a decision on running backs." That was literally his comment. And
I really didn't have a problem, but I want to get back to the difference between Spurrier and Heupel is that Spurrier had a ton of talent in his backyard, so he could pick. He could say that to Emmitt Smith because he went to Eric Rhett. Eric Rhett was pretty darn good. He wasn't Emmitt Smith, but he was pretty darn good. So I mean, you were able to do those sorts of things because you're in Florida, but you can't do that at Tennessee.
No, you can't.
You can't be lazy. You can't miss, and Tennessee's missed a lot. You can't have things blow up in your face like the Nico situation, and you can't have scandals, scams, situations like this because, listen, you just don't have the in-state talent. And I think this is a really poor decision by Josh Heupel to get involved with this. I thought this at SEC Media Days last year after I visited with all parties involved. I think it now, and I thought it was going to blow up in their face eventually. As a matter of fact, Caleb, I don't know if you remember it, but I told you, I said, well, this is going to go south. I thought it at the time. And listen, the involvement with all these parties and On3 and it just reeks. It absolutely reeks. So my question is, what could go wrong? Well, here's something I'll throw out there. What if, I'm just throwing it out there as a potential development. What if Tennessee funded Furking to improve a player's On3 NIL evaluation so that advertisers looked at that and said, this guy's worth more. I got to give him more money. And Furking says, University of Tennessee took care of you for that. Is that a violation? Hell, Caleb, I don't know in this current NCAA. I really don't. But it sure seems sketchy.
Seems very sketchy. Now, the good news for Tennessee is that the NCAA doesn't do postseason bans anymore for these type of violations. But
I don't even know what a violation is anymore.
No, I don't either. I don't either at all. But so that's the good news for Tennessee. I guess the bad news for Tennessee is they could come down hard on you for, shall we say, other issues, like they could maybe come after your athletic director, come after your head coach. There's a lot of ways they could come after you, by the way, that don't necessarily involve that may not necessarily involve pro bowl bans or postseason bans, and that's what Tennessee has to worry about the most.
Listen, even though the NCAA doesn't have the same teeth they used to, you still don't want them sniffing around, right?
Exactly. Totally agree. You don't.
General Ursa says Heupel seems content on getting average talent and coaching it up. Yeah,